Hey, last night, so this was a little bit different, but last night, it was probably about 7:15, 7:20 or so, and it's kind of the time of day where right now it's starting to get pretty dark, and thank you, Anna. And it's getting dark a little bit earlier, a little bit earlier, a little bit earlier. And that's great. We're watching football. We're watching a game that we really don't care about at all, except it started to be a pretty good game. So we're watching Oregon and Washington. We're watching them play. We're like, I really don't care about West Coast teams and all that. Oregon, that's kind of cool. They've got all the jerseys and stuff like that they do. My wife is cheering for the Huskies just because she likes Huskies because they're dogs. So, like the important things that matter, right? My one son's like, they're ducks. I like ducks. Okay, great. All right, you cheer for the Ducks and you cheer for the Huskies. That's great. We're doing that, and all of a sudden we get a ring at our doorbell. Nobody ever rings our doorbell. Why? Because you can't even really tell that our doorbell's there because it's like covered in dirt and it's nasty and old and it's kind of off to the side. I know the rest of you have really manicured spots, but ours is a little different. And so you press it, and he presses it, and you hear the doorbell, and we're like, okay, it's got to be somebody we don't know. And so my immediate thought is it's got to be a salesperson. Somebody's selling something, but who sells stuff door to door at 7:15 at night on a Saturday? Like, that's abnormal. And then I look, and it's like kind of in the distance, it looks like a kid, like a high school kid. And so I'm going, okay, well, and I look back to Lindsay. She's like, what's going on? What is it? And I'm like, maybe it's a Girl Scout. It looks like a guy, but maybe it's a Girl Scout. I don't know. They're selling Girl Scout cookies. They're selling whatever. I don't know what's going on. Maybe they're selling something. And I was kind of excited. Maybe it's Girl Scout cookies because, not going to lie, fat. And so we like the Girl Scout cookies. It's not the Girl Scout at all. It's a guy. And the guy answers the door, or I answer the door, open it up, and he goes, hey, can I wash your car for like $10? Like, there's nothing else at all, and he's literally carrying a jug about this big with him, with what looks like soap. And I'm not really 100% sure what's going on. It's dark outside. I'm like, no, man, not right now. Like, I don't, not right now. It's cool, man. If you want to come back another time, that's cool. And so he's like, okay, that's great. And so then he starts to walk off, and he gets about 10 to 15 feet further down the sidewalk, and he looks and he goes, I like your basketball goal. That's cool. Thanks. Like, that's just kind of an awkward, weird thing. So then I shut the door, and immediately I'm going, wait a minute. Is he going to steal my basketball goal in the middle of the night? What is this kid up to? Like, because it's 7:15, it's dark. He's gonna wash my car in the middle of the night? And so what did I do? The only responsible thing that you can do if you live in the neighborhood, what do? You get on Nextdoor. Come on. You get on Nextdoor, you get on Facebook, you look, and so I'm looking on Facebook later, and I'm looking, I'm like, oh, and I screenshot it in case I forgot it, but I look on there, and somebody else was like, does anybody have a son that's going door to door? Because this is weird at night to be doing that. And somebody else commented, yes, it is a little weird, but I can vouch that he does live in the neighborhood. And so I went to bed going, okay, good. Nobody's going to steal my basketball goal in the middle of the night. Not that it's anything special or not, but just one of those weird things. I'm going, this kid, he comes up, he says that he wants to do something. It's kind of a cheap price. I should have been like, hey, this is a great opportunity to let him do it. And instead, what am I? I'm a little bit skeptical. A little bit kind of like, I think he's offering to do this, but really he's got his buddies around, like, and they're scoping out our house, which, not that they're going to find anything good except for, like, trash on the side or something, like, I don't know, an old beat-up lawnmower that doesn't work. They're going to find something, but they're going to steal it. And so I'm just skeptical, thinking this is what's going to happen, and nothing does. And we pick up in Acts chapter 9, and we're picking up in a very similar situation, because this is what happens, I think, so many times in life, is there are people all around us that they are telling us something, and we are extremely skeptical of whether or not they are actually who they are, if they are who they say they are, and if they represent what they say they represent. And then there are many times in our lives where we are going into situations and we can tell that people are very skeptical of us. This is why I never tell people I'm a pastor the first time I meet them, right? Because the first time that if you mention that you're a pastor, people think all kinds of different things because they may have grown up in a different religion or they just see something on TV. And so you go, oh, I'm a pastor. And they immediately think like, oh, you must be like this televangelist that I saw that was like trying to machine gun the Holy Spirit on people. Like, that must be you. And you're like, no, that's not me. And then you see other guys and you're like, oh, that must be that guy that you must be the guy that on Sunday you wear a suit and you yell at people. I yell at people, but I don't wear a suit. And so, don't get me wrong. And so people have all these kind of preconceived ideas, or, oh, you must not be married then. No, you must not have kids then. Oh, no. How does this work? They're skeptical. They don't understand how is it that you're who you say you are. We have the same thing that happens to us. So I want to jump into Acts chapter 9, and we're going to start in verse 19. And so Gil last week kind of walked us through Saul, his conversion to Christianity. And so if you were with us, you heard about there was this man named Saul. Saul was the guy that was going around with murderous threats against all of the believers, the new believers, and saying, hey, we're going to throw them into jail. Hey, we should have them stoned. We should have them imprisoned. And he goes around and he gets the approval from the synagogues that all of this can happen. And he's going around and he's doing all this, and then all of a sudden he's blinded. Jesus shows up into the unexpected moment, interrupts his plans for his life, and says, Saul, why are you persecuting me? You think that you are doing things for me, and yet you are fighting directly against me. And so Gil talked a little bit about that last week. And so this week we kind of follow up into that second part of going, this is who Saul was. Now, how does he deal with the aftermath now that he has met Jesus? Because it's one thing for us to go, hey, I want my friends, I want my coworkers, I want to lead them to Jesus, but I don't know what in the world is going to happen in their life after they hear Jesus. Because you don't understand, like, they live this, they believe this, they fully support this, and now if Jesus shows up and Jesus is giving them all these new roles, I don't know that they're even going to be able to function like with who they believe they are and now who Jesus says that they are. And so we want to walk through that a little bit this morning. And so in verse 19 it says this. It says, Saul spent several days with the disciples in Damascus. Notice, this is not the apostles. These are just disciples. These are other believers. So this would be like, hey, Saul spent some time with the disciples of SoChurch. That's all of us in this room, okay? So he spent some time with them in Damascus. At once, he began to preach in the synagogues that Jesus is the Son of God. Stop right there. He doesn't have permission to do this. He's not supposed to do this. He's not been trained yet to do this. I'm pretty sure God does not want him doing this, right? No. Right? Yet so many times what happens, we go, somebody comes to church and we're like, no, you probably shouldn't say anything yet because you don't really have a clue. You don't know all the answers yet. So until you have all the answers, you should probably wait. You can't really help with kids ministry because you don't have a Bible degree. You can't really probably lead in worship until you've been a believer for 30 years. I've been at places where it's like, oh, you want to serve in this area, and I totally get it. If somebody's going to be teaching, we need to vet some things out. We need to pay attention to that. But I think so many times it's like we gatekeep being a part of the body of Jesus. We'll get there in a minute. But once he began to preach in the synagogues that Jesus is the Son of God. So this is the thing he knows. This is what he's doing. All those who heard him were astonished and asked, isn't he the man who raised havoc in Jerusalem among those who call on this name? So in other words, wait a minute, this guy's the one that, like, he's talking about Jesus and saying that Jesus is the Son of God, and yet he's the one that was trying to kill people for saying the very same thing. Like, this is crazy. And hasn't he come here to take them? Wait a minute, isn't the entire reason he's in Damascus to come and get us? Isn't the entire reason that he's in this place is to prove them wrong? Hasn't he come here to take them as prisoners to the chief priests? Yet Saul grew more and more powerful and baffled the Jews living in Damascus by proving that Jesus is the Messiah. Now we know from how he lived from here on out, if you look at a lot of the letters he sent and things like that, we know how he proved that Jesus was the Messiah. A few ways. One, he was a very bright man. Don't get me wrong. Paul, probably the brightest of all of the apostles. Probably the smartest of all the apostles, the most educated of all the apostles. Probably if you were to read into any of the scriptures, the gospel, there's probably only one that might like kind of come equal with him, and that's Luke, who was a physician, right? And so he's a very smart guy. And he grew up and he's educated by the Greeks. And so he's very, very smart. And so we know that he's going to use his wisdom, he's going to use his knowledge to prove that, oh, Jesus is the Son of God. But one of the most practical and powerful ways that he would prove that Jesus is the Messiah is by his very life that was completely turned upside down. He was the proof. Because you could see what his life was like, and now you could see that it's completely different. And there's no logic behind it. There's no logic to go, oh, this person believed this way and wanted to kill for this, and now he is 100% going this way. There's no logic there. And so the first thing that I want you to understand today is this, is that your yesterday is an even greater reason to share today. Your yesterday is an even greater reason to share today. So many times in life we look at our yesterday, and that might be actual yesterday, it might be years ago, and we look at our past and we look at things that we have done and we go, I don't have a reason to share. No one should listen to me because of the things that I have done in my life. I'm not worthy to share. And yet what we learn from Paul is the very things that would make him, what we learned from Saul, the very things that would make him someone that you would logically think is someone that should not be talking about Jesus. He's actually the very one that should be talking about him the most, because you go, he has done all of these things, and yet Jesus has set even him free. Jesus could use even him. And so in your life, there may be things that you're looking back on going, yesterday I did this, and so how can I stand up and do this? Like, oh, I can't serve in kids ministry. Like, do you know what I was like when I was a kid? I was the worst. Even more so, you know what Jesus has done in your life and what Jesus can go. That kid who is raising all kinds of hell in that room can bring a whole lot of heaven. That kid, God's got a plan for that kid, even when they don't see it right now and it looks like a mess. And you can step into those situations and bring something because of what God has done in your life. And sometimes it's, oh, you've just learned and you know and you have experience, and so you can offer wisdom in those areas. But sometimes it's just going, they have someone that can walk in with peace that outside of Jesus they don't deserve. And it's amazing to go, Jesus, you offered me all of this mercy, all of this grace when I didn't deserve it. And now I get to live in your freedom. And now I can say that even you can use me today, even with my yesterday. In Luke 15, verse 3, it says, Then Jesus told them this parable. And he's talking to the disciples. Suppose one of you has 100 sheep and loses one of them. Doesn't he leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? You know this song. We sing the Reckless Love song, and some of you are going like, this is theologically terrible. I can't. It's Jesus is not reckless. And we can debate the meaning of the word reckless all day long, but ultimately this is what the song is about, right? That Jesus would recklessly leave the 99 there to go chase after one. He's not reckless. He's reckless. Come at me. All right. Anyways. Doesn't he leave the 99 in the open country and go after the lost sheep until he finds it? And when he finds it, he joyfully puts it on his shoulders and goes home. Then he calls his friends and lost sheep. I tell you, in the same way, there will be more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who do not need to repent. What your story was yesterday, what your pain was yesterday, what your sin was yesterday, there is salvation that is offered, and there is celebration that is happening because you have changed your ways and you have turned and followed Jesus. And it doesn't matter what your yesterday was, because today you are forgiven, you are free, and you can live in His power. That's what Jesus offers, and that is exactly what Saul is experiencing in this moment. Back to Acts 9, verse 23. After many days had gone by, there was a conspiracy among the Jews. There's so many conspiracies in the Bible, it's almost like we could learn about conspiracies. Having them. Some of you need a sense of humor this morning. It's okay. There was a conspiracy among the Jews to kill him, but Saul learned of their plan. Day and night they kept close watch on the city gates in order to kill him. But his followers took him by night and lowered him in a basket through an opening in the wall. You've got to understand that following Jesus will make you a target. Following Jesus will make you a target. In John 15, verse 18, it says, "If the world hates you, keep in mind that it hated me first. If you belong to the world, it would love you as its own. As it is, you do not belong to the world, but I have chosen you out of the world. That is why the world hates you. Remember what I told you? A servant's not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will persecute you also." If you're a believer in this room, you go, why are people opposing me? Why don't people just treat me nice because I say that I love people, but they want to call me a bigot, or they want to say that I hate people, or they want to say that I'm a hypocrite, or they want to say that I only care about some things, I should care about all things, or whatever it may be that people pick on you about. You go, I feel persecuted. I feel like there's a target on my back. There is. There is a target on your back. If you don't have a target on your back, that's when you should be worried. Because if you belong to Him, you're going to be persecuted. Not always, not every minute, not every second, but there will be times of persecution. Verse 26, when He came to Jerusalem, He tried to join the disciples, but they were all afraid of Him, not believing that He was really a disciple. Have you ever seen anybody see the Mighty Ducks before? If you haven't, you need to relive your childhood. Go stream it on Disney Plus or whatever you can find it on. And go watch the Mighty Ducks. Gordon Bombay is a great coach. Saw some things going on. The Pee Wee Hockey League, and things are great. And only great because he got a DUI and got assigned to him. And it's just a great story. So he's walking into this team, and he's got a team that has very little talent. But he figures out that there is this kid that is actually zoned to be on his team, but's playing for another team. And he goes, and because he's a lawyer, he figures out that he's got to get this guy on his team. So this kid, Adam Banks, comes in. Talented, good-looking, wealthy kid. And he walks into this hockey room, this locker room, and everybody's just kind of get out. You're one of them. And one of the kids get out of here, cake eater. That's his name, cake eater. Why? He's rich. And in that area, they would actually show up. There's a rumor that these people would go to the game. They had their celebration cake ready before the game so they could eat it after the game. And even if they lost, they'd still eat it because they were rich enough they just didn't care. And that's kind of the way that they were seen. And they're going, you're going to be on my team? You play for the Hawks. You can't be on my team if you play for the Hawks. You'll always be a Hawk. You can't do that. I know that's silly. I know it's childish, but many times in life, I think we feel, or others may feel this way around us, of going you played for this certain team, the team of the world, and now you want to act like a Christian? I don't think so. Or we have this mistrust of people that come into the church and go, I don't know if they're the real deal. See, following Jesus will make others nervous. Following Jesus will make a lot of people nervous. Following Jesus will make people in the world nervous because they're going, you live very differently. I'm not sure if I like it or not, but I'm pretty sure you're against the things that I do, and I don't like people being against the things that I do, and so I don't think I like you, and so you make me nervous. I don't want you around. But then the other thing that it does is this. Being a follower of Jesus sometimes can make other followers of Jesus nervous. What kind of follower of Jesus are you? Are you one of those Baptists? You're Methodist? Episcopalian? They're the worst. I don't know. Which one? Are you Catholic? Are you what kind of Christian are you? You're a Pentecostal. Oh, man. Don't you bring snakes in here? I don't know. You're just kind of leery and looking at all these people and going like, what kind of Christian are you? I don't know if I trust you, and I don't know that I trust what you're going to be doing. And so some of you are going, yeah, I haven't gotten in one of these SO communities yet because I don't really know you guys, and I know you're going to do some weird stuff if I show up to your house. All right? That's kind of the skepticism that is out there. And more than just a little bit nervous, these people are very nervous around Paul. And in verse 27 it says, but Barnabas took him and brought him to the apostles. He told them how Saul on his journey had seen the Lord, and that the Lord had spoken to him, and how in Damascus he had preached fearlessly in the name of Jesus. So Saul stayed with them and moved about freely in Jerusalem, speaking boldly in the name of the Lord. And as a church, this is where I think it really applies to us. We're in the land of theme parks, right? It's not easy to get into a theme park. Is it? Some more than others. I'll let you guys fight that out. But depending on which one you go to, you've got to have tickets, a pass, something like that says that you've paid entry and you belong there. You might have to have a reservation or not a reservation if it's after 2. I'm not sure. All right, you might have to have a reservation. And then once you get there, you might or might not have to pay for parking and then park in a certain spot. They don't let you just park wherever you want. Then you've got to enter. And to enter, no matter which park you go to in Orlando, especially the big couple of them, you know what I'm talking about? The ones that are closest to here, a little north of here, a little south of here. What you'll have to do is you're going to have to walk through security. And they're going to check you. And they might have some dogs sniffing you. They're going to make you maybe put your keys and your other stuff on a plate and put that through. You have to walk through some sort of detector. I'm not sure what they're detecting. They're going to have to do that. If you have a bag, you might have to get your bag checked. So it's not easy. Then you have to go and prove that you have a ticket, and you got to put your ticket through the thing, and you might even have to scan your finger or whatever. It's not easy to get into a theme park, but hundreds of thousands of people do it every day. Why? Because once you're in, it's fun, and the entire time that you're going through that whole process, there are people showing you the way, and they're happy to do so. Hey, great, come park here. And you've got the guy, and he's flagging you down, and he's doing this or whatever out in the parking lot, and park this way, and they're doing it with a smile. And then you go through all the security line, and people are generally, hey, where are you from? Having a conversation. People are genuinely happy that you are there and happy to help you find your way where you want to go to get into the theme park. It's not easy to get into, but it's welcoming. It's hospitable. You feel like, even though it's not easy, it's where I belong and I'm wanted here. But many times the church doesn't feel like you're entering a theme park. It feels like you're trying to enter North Korea. That's my seat. Why do they sit in my seat? I've sat there for 10 years. This church has only existed for 1 year. But forever. That's my spot. Out in where you're parking, there might be somebody, might not be, I don't know, whatever. Maybe they're out in the world, the real world, where the church is all the time, the Jesus fish goes by, followed by a notable finger out the window. You cut them off, they're angry. Oh, and they've got a Jesus fish. That's great. I feel so welcome and loved. There's a reason why SoChurch doesn't have bumper stickers. But I think you get the point, right? Like, we're not here to make the Christian life seem easy. We're not here to make it seem like, oh, just anybody can show up and teach anything or do anything or whatever. And it shouldn't just be something where you show up this week and next week you're going to preach or you're going to lead worship or whatever. I get it that there's some standards and things like that. But why can't we be a people that goes, yeah, there may be a couple things that we want to help you figure out, and we want to protect the body and make sure that we don't get some weird theology in here. Like, we do want to do those things, but why can't we do that with a smile and a welcoming attitude, and like we actually want people to join us? It's only going to happen if you become a Barnabas. It's only going to happen if you become a Barnabas. If you become almost the person of peace, because your neighbor is going, I know the kind of people that go there, and I'm pretty sure they don't want me there. And I'm pretty sure, and I've heard this from people, Lindsay, you've heard this from family members, like people that would go, if I walked into a church, God's probably going to strike me dead with lightning. Like you've heard that. And there are people that legit feel like if they show up to church, they'll probably die. Something bad will happen, and nobody wants them there. The only way that they are going to show up to hear the life-changing gospel is if you become a Barnabas that goes, hey, it's going to be okay. I'm going to be with you. And oh, by the way, I'm going to introduce you to some amazing people that also are going to be really excited and glad that you're there. And we're going to help you. Would we be that kind of church? He talked and debated with the Hellenistic Jews, but they tried to kill him. And when the believers learned of this, they took him down to Caesarea and sent him off to Tarsus. Catch this. This is what I love. Then the church throughout Judea, Galilee, and Samaria enjoyed a time of peace and was strengthened, living in the fear of the Lord. Notice, they weren't living in the fear of the people at that point. Living in the fear of the Lord and encouraged by the Holy Spirit, it increased in numbers. This is my prayer for us this year. Would we be people that go, we're going to be Barnabas to Dr. Phillips, to Williamsburg, to Lake Buena Vista. We are going to be Barnabas to this area. And our prayer is that God would give us peace and God would increase our numbers. Not so that we can become, oh, we're the next cool thing. I don't think we'll ever be the next cool thing. I don't care if we're the next cool thing. But what I do care about is there are thousands of people that live in this area that don't know Jesus, and they need to know him. And there are thousands of people that know Jesus but don't know other people and have relationship with other people that know Jesus. That's why we're here. So they may have life. Life that comes through life with Jesus. Let's pray.